One of the earliest memories of my dad that I have is when we were, I don't know, how old was that, 4 or 5 years old. I remember him, we were just escaping war, so we were kind of all over the place. But I remember we were staying at this place. We were kind of staying just for a little bit in this upper floor of a house that had a balcony. And I remember I was playing in the front yard. Oh, actually, it was the backyard. I was playing in the backyard with some kids, whatever. We were messing around. I remember looking up and I saw my dad on the balcony. I saw him kind of step over the railing. I mean, this wasn't like a massive balcony. He stepped over the railing and he started doing pull-ups off the end of the balcony. And I thought to myself, at that time, it was the most impressive thing that I've ever seen anyone do. So my dad back then would have been, I don't know, 30 years old, 31 years old. I was 4 or 5 years old. And so, he was kind of fresh out of the army. We kind of escaped the war kind of ended, all this sort of stuff. I might have been even older, maybe 6 or 7. And I remember him doing pull-ups. This was the first time I saw somebody training like that, like training at home. Most people that you meet in your life, they don't train. Most people just go about their normal life. You don't see too many fitness people. My dad dropped down and he could do like 30 pull-ups, no problem, 30, 40 pull-ups. He was like a lighter frame guy. He played volleyball when he was, earlier in his life as a kid. So he was all about, jumping ability, being fast, a leaper. And because of his light frame, he had the ability to do a lot of pull-ups. And so he did a lot of pull-ups. So he did that. And then I also had memories of him going for a run. And then when I was around 10 years old, we came to Australia, 11 years old. He would, go to his factory, the job that he had here initially, work a freaking 9 to 5 in the factory, come home and would have dinner, and we would often go to the park, to the local oval, and he'll go running. He would run like 10 Ks, and me and my brother would be like in the middle of the park kicking a footy or kicking a ball around or whatever. He'll be just doing laps and laps and laps. And then, I remember running with him. Obviously I couldn't run 10 Ks with him, but I would run as much as I can and I'd drop off and this sort of stuff. So like I've been exposed to fitness from a very young age, and my dad always used to say to me, there's no excuse being out of shape. Like one of the roles of a man of the house is to be in shape. You can't. Like, how are you going to protect your family? How are you going to, you need to be in shape, right? Like, you don't want to be in, I don't know. That's kind of the exposure that I got from a very early on. And I mean, people could tell you anything they want. You can tell me the freaking sky's pink. The sky's freaking green, whatever the hell you want to tell me. Until you show me the sky's pink, man, I ain't going to believe it. My dad was doing it, man. Like, he didn't tell me, Ivan, we got to do 20 pull-ups or 30 pull-ups or whatever. He was about that, man. And so I took that kind of role with me as well. So today, before I left to train, I wanted to do lunges. And I said to the kids, look, I'm going to go to the park. I'm going to do some lunges. You want to come with me? Daddy's going. He's like, yeah. So we go to the park and I start doing my lunges, do 1, 2 sets, 3 sets. And then they start, Daddy, can I do a lunge with you? And I'm like, well, look at that. I never asked them to do any lunges. They just want to do it because Daddy's doing them. And I don't know. I remember my dad being a hero in my eyes. He was like everything that I wanted to be. And so my boy starts to do lunges and whatever. The girl starts to do lunges. And so I think to myself, like, these early exposures, and a few of you guys said this in the comments, these early exposures means everything to a developing child. And these exposures don't have to be forced on people. My kids, like, I remember my son being like 3 days, 3-day old, and we had him in the bassinet. We had him in this bassinet. It was a really, really cold afternoon. And, we rugged him up, but I put him in this bassinet. And I was in a garage training, and he was sitting there, whatever. And so I was doing sets. My wife was next to me, all this stuff was happening. And so he was hearing sounds of me loading a plate, me loading a second plate, me racking, all these type of things. They were he was like 3 days old when he started hearing iron clunk together, the smell of, I don't know, weights or iron or whatever, the squat rack, whatever the stimulus is. And then, that means a lot, man. It's kind of like passive learning, passive exposure. And we know that we are a product of our environment, and this doesn't stop. So if I'm like 40 years old, my boy's 15, 20 years old, and he's watching me still go at it, like, what are the chances of him not being like, man, I want to give this a shot or whatever? Like, I think Dad's pretty cool. I think Dad's a cool guy. and he spends a lot of freaking time doing this stuff. Maybe I should try it. Like that sort of stuff. Like my dad never said to me, come do pull-ups or come running for me. I just wanted to be with my dad, and I thought that was really cool. And here I am doing pull-ups. And it's funny because, pull-ups is kind of the first stuff that I started doing in terms of training. Why? Because I saw dad do pull-ups and I saw how fit he was, and I thought, that's what you got to do. And this doesn't stop as a kid. You continue on, the friends you meet, the job you have, like everyone has a kind of imprint onto you. Everyone has some sort of, energy that they leave on you, But because my exposure as a child, I always gravitated towards sports, towards active people. When I went to high school, I saw a whole bunch of kids, man, who were doing freaking drugs back of the shed at school, back of the sports shed, at the back of the oval. All these kids are rolling up joints and smoking joints, and I'm like, what the hell do you want to do that for, man? Like, that's not going to get you better at shooting a three. Like, what a waste of time. That's not going to get you better at doing pull-ups, man. Like, it's all about getting pull-ups numbers up, right? So my underpinning, my baseline of thinking was, I just want to get good at pull-ups so I can be my dad at pull-ups, so I can outrun him on the park. And here are kids smoking a blunt. Like, it never occurred to me that I want to smoke a blunt. Because, dude, all I want to do is beat my freaking dad, man. Like, I just want to win the arm wrestle and do more pull-ups. That's kind of like my exposure. Like, intrinsically, I wasn't thinking that. Like, I wasn't thinking, I want to be better than that. But everyone knows, like, you are kind of just following the footsteps of your parents. Now, in the case of your parents beating the hell out of you with a textbook over the head, you got to be a freaking Einstein. Maybe there's some sort of like, that's like a repellent towards you being your parents. But if it's a passive thing, if you just slowly, gradually get exposed to some of these things, I think kids will gravitate towards you. And so, I had plenty of opportunities to do drugs, plenty of guys around. Some guys were freaking making a whole bunch of money really all in their life out of, selling drugs, but I never was about that. I had dreams of playing in the NBA from very early on. And I had, even earlier than that, I wanted to do more pull-ups than dad. And so that's kind of how it is. And now I have my two best friends I met on a basketball court. Is that a coincidence? No, because I spent a lot of freaking time on a basketball court. And my mates, they followed T-Mac, they followed Kevin Garnett, they knew all their stats, the teams, all the roster and the schedule and all of that. We will meet up, we will freaking orientate our life based on the freaking NBA schedule. This Wednesday is freaking Game 7 finals, Warriors Cleveland, Warriors Cavs. So this is how we used to kind of live. And so it's flowed on from me seeing my dad drop down that balcony like a freaking Spider-Man. I'm like, Dad's gonna die. And I was like, he's not going to die because he's repping this thing out, man. He's like falling and not, falling and not, falling and not, falling and not. He's so damn strong. And then he'll kind of muscle up on the rail and step over and he'll look down at me and smile. And I'm like, this guy's a Superman. Look at him go. Like, I just want to be like that. And so there's these snippets in my memory where I can look back now that's kind of formed my passion for this, man. Like, another imprint in me was a house full of people. When was it? 1998. I think it was 1998. I forget the intricacies, but I remember, man, like it was yesterday. Mijatovic. I don't know if you guys know this guy, but he used to play for Real Madrid back in the day. He was a Serbian striker, played for Yugoslavian striker, I should say. I think it was in 1998 or was it 1994. It was like a 2-2 setup, and he went for a penalty kick. I forget. I'm forgetting all the details, but basically he missed the penalty, and the way he missed the penalty was like he missed a freaking penalty. He put his laces through that ball, man, hit the crossbar. The freaking thing flew up into the stands or whatever it was. And I remember like the agony in the household. I remember the energy, like, oh my God, like this guy was kicking a ball, and it destroyed a whole freaking room of people. The hopeful people that we were going to win this game. And I remember thinking to myself, that guy's there because he's physically fit, because he spent so much time with that ball, because he didn't drink, he didn't do drugs, he did all these things to get himself strong and fit. And now he's here and he's dictating people's emotion through this damn kick of a ball. And so these type of things were like, man, I want to play a sport. I want everyone to have hopes in me to do the right thing. So when I'm in that freaking penalty spot, I'm going to freaking put it in the top corner. That kind of thing. And so my dad, Mijatovic, And then later on, like all these exposures kept going and going, and all the numerous freaking experiences that I had with watching NBA and the heartbreak, and oh my God, so many freaking heartbreaks from the Kings, Sacramento Kings getting stolen, freaking absolutely robbed when they played the Lakers. 50 million foul calls for Lakers, no foul calls for Sacramento Kings. Like all these things have kind of impacted me as an individual. And so now, I'm all about staying fit. I'm all about improving my strength. I'm all about being an example, an example to my kids. And so now, every time I say Dad's going to go to the park to train, or now that it's warmer weather, I'm like, I was actually coming out of the door today. I didn't even tell the kids where I was going. I just wanted to kind of jump in, maybe do some hamstring curls or whatever. And he was like, Dad, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going to go to the park, do some lunges actually before I start training. He's like, oh, can I come? Daughter jumps on. We go to the park. I start lunging. I'm not even saying anything. They were running around, playing around. Dad, can we do some lunges? Yeah, sure. Let's do some lunges. Let's line up. And so it's like one of those things, man. You are your environment. And if your environment is healthy from an early age, it's a great thing, man. It's a great thing. It means a lot. You don't need motivation. You don't need inspiration. I just want to be like my dad, man. That's kind of the deep down psyche. Freud talked about crazy things about what parents mean to kids. But it's priceless. It's absolutely priceless. What you are, you're going to be a reflection on your children. And so if you are a parent and you are overweight and you're eating crap and you don't find the excuse, if you're finding excuses not to train, your kids have never seen you run, your kids have never seen you squat or deadlift or do anything like this, they're probably not going to be interested in that either, right? But if they're seeing you do a big squat routine and you are there on all fours freaking vomiting, right? You are freaking vomiting. The kid's there thinking, what the hell is Dad doing this, man? He must be doing it for a good reason, right? And so I'm expecting over the next few years, my boy's going to be like, oh, Dad, how do you squat? What should I do? Like all these type of things. I'm not going to force anything on him. He can do whatever he wants. But I just know the way nature is, he's going to want to be kind of like me. I certainly hope he picks up the fitness thing from me. He doesn't have to play basketball or soccer, whatever. But I certainly feel like I would like him to be fit, or not to be overweight, or to be unhealthy and that kind of thing. And so now I'm an adult, right? Now I'm an adult, and my dad's living his own life. I'm my own man, my own family. But these imprints are still here with me. I still watch soccer, still watch basketball, still basically idolize people who have carried on that lifestyle that my dad used to live. So now when I see, for example, Zach LaVine, because I see a lot of him now because Chicago Bulls are doing so well in the NBA for the first time, it seems like in 30 freaking years. Actually, it's not 30 years because they had Derrick Rose not too long ago, and that was a really good period as well for them. But, Derrick Rose deleted. It's basically you're going back and in the 90s when Chicago had a decent team. So now, Zach LaVine, Vucevic, you got Lonzo Ball, Caruso, like all these players are like DeMar DeRozan. So all these guys are like really fun to watch, really cool teams. So I've been watching a lot of them. And so now when I see Zach LaVine, every single time I think about lunges. I've told this story. The reason why I think about lunges every time I think of Zach LaVine, it's because he's an incredible athlete, right? We can all agree that his leaping ability off of 1 and 2 feet is phenomenal. He's phenomenal. He doesn't have a lot of muscle mass. He doesn't look like a guy who can take off and be airborne like that, but he is. And so I did some research on him, and I found this video where he was talking about how he grew up, how he got his athleticism, and one of the things he preached, well, his dad preached to him. I don't know what his dad was. I think his dad was some athletic person as well. His dad made him do a lot of lunging work, like split squats, jumping off 1 foot, landing, jumping again, just a lot of split stand stuff and a lot of walking lunges. I remember this scene where they were like, it was like a high school kind of age Zach LaVine, and he was like lunging through these car tires, and then he would like lunge backwards. He's just basically lunging essentially. And I remember at the time, I'm like, man, if Zach LaVine got his athleticism doing that, there must be something good about unilateral work. And there's a whole freaking series, maybe like 3-4 months ago, it was all about Bulgarian split squats. That's kind of where it was born, when I was exposed to that. So now every time I think about Zach LaVine, I'm like lunges. So the other day when I went to the gym and I accidentally went into that, hip thrust machine, and I was like, God damn, this is lighting my freaking ass up. Like, this is crazy. And then the following couple of days, there was no soreness, there was no nothing. So I was like puzzled. Then I started thinking about what's another really good glute exercise. And then I'm sitting there watching Zach Levine, and I'm like, oh, walking lunges popped into my head again. Walking lunges, man. I remember that doing wonders to me. And so it's like I'm constantly consuming this fitness content, whether it be on YouTube or ESPN or BN Sports, whatever the UEFA freaking thing is now, Stan Sports. I'm always seeing examples of people running fast, jumping high, just athletic things. And so I'm always kind of being, probed to think about my own puzzle. And it's just like, it's a flow and effect, man. My dad was the first thing that I saw that was kind of like, wow, how cool is that? Dude's hanging off the balcony doing pull-ups. And then I see Zach Levine flying through the air, winning all these dunk contests, posterizing people. And then he says lunges are a thing for him. They got him there. And I'm like, that's interesting. Store that information. And then I see LeBron James, a freaking 36, 37 years old, still fitter than some of these dudes who are coming into the NBA at 20. And he's a tireless worker. And so I'm like, man, if LeBron James can do, I can freaking work out every day as well. Then I hear Kobe Bryant's interviews, what he used to be about, Mamba mentality, getting after it. Man, just endless thoughts. And so the way how I live my life, you guys are like, how the hell do you find something to talk about? Dude, it's my life, man. It is my life. I'm constantly about this stuff. So when I say to you guys, like, most of my free time, like my true free time, I'm thinking about this sort of stuff. It's because I see Zach Levine freaking cock it back and like knock a dunk over somebody. I'm like, God damn, this guy's explosive. So then I'm thinking about hip internal rotation. I'm thinking about glutes. I know glutes are mostly responsible for your leaping ability. It's the powerhouse of the body. Glutes. What are squats? Quads and glutes. What are deadlifts? Lots of hip extension, lots of quads, some hamstrings as well, adductors. So all this sort of stuff is just bouncing in my head like a freaking ping pong ball. And then if you're continuously hitting that ping pong ball in your head all the time, eventually you're going to freaking hit a nerve and you're going to be like, aha, I should do this. And then as the years go on, as the exposure goes on, as you're thinking continuously, just keeps on going, you get better. But if you are somebody on another scale who is not about fitness, not about anything like this, and you want to get your squat up, but your job is not fitness, your personal time is not fitness, you don't watch any sports, and then like you think about squatting every time you squat, which is once a week, there's not a lot of thought there. There's not a lot of energy into this project of yours, this puzzle of yours. And so even when you are not training, you can train by feeding the energy back into the puzzle. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.